Is it me that they speak upon? Niggas wanna creep up on, respect for me absent, won't hesitate to sleep me on my lawn.
George Mo, aka the original Pretty Tony, back with this quick Terence Crawford versus Kell Brook Fight Recap. Terence Crawford defended his WBO welterweight title against Kell Brook on Saturday night, and he got a 4th round TKO in the fight. The fight started off as a little bit of a chess match. The first 3 rounds could have went either way. And then suddenly, in the 4th round, Terence Crawford kind of caught Kell with a right jab, kind of like a hook, kind of like a jab a little. It wasn't a hard shot, but he caught him, and it knocked Kell back, and the ropes held him up. And that was the first knockdown. And then the second knockdown, the second where the fight got stopped, Terence just went in for the kill. But the interesting thing about it is Kell Brook kind of looked like a shot fighter after that punch because it wasn't a hard shot at all. So it has me thinking and wondering how much does Kell Brook have left in him, which brings the dilemma of for Terence Crawford. You know, Kell Brook was a good name. Amir Khan was a good name on his resume. But these two guys have been stopped multiple times prior to him, and they haven't looked good in years against top talent. And Terence Crawford, he may be the best fighter in the world. He could arguably be the best fighter in the world. He's pound for pound number 1. But with all that being said, how much weight does that hold if he's not facing top-notch talent? And it's been admitted by Bob Arum that, you know, he's running out of guys to put in with him. They don't want to, give any leeway to PBC for some of the big fights that they have for him. So it's hindering Terence Crawford's legacy at 147. It really is when we look back at it and we look at that resume for the real boxing pugilists and boxing fans. We'll look at that resume and be able to pick it apart and say, hey, these guys were shot fighters. These guys weren't top-notch contenders. So I think Terence he may have to make a move over to PBC or just get away from Bob Arum to where he can get with the promotion that'll work well with PBC, because it's hurting his legacy if he can't get these big fights. Bob Arum made a quote a couple of weeks ago saying that he's lost money on Terence Crawford. So it doesn't sound like he has a promoter that's willing to back him 100%, 1000%. To be the pound for pound best fighter in the world. Terence Crawford should have better fights than what he's had. The competition has got to be stepped up, because he may be the best fighter in the world, but we may never see it as long as he's under Bob Arum. And it's like pulling teeth to get him in there with a good opponent. It's always been like that with Bob Arum when it comes to Al Haymon. The only reason the Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fight was able to take place the second time is because it took place the first time and Tyson Fury wasn't signed over with Bob Arum. So it made sense to keep the money coming in. But that's hindering Terence's career, because he's got to get better competition. You know, these guys he's getting in there with is, you know, shop worn. At the end of their career, the better days behind them. They just got a nice name, and at the end of the day, PBC, they got all the good fighters. They got all the good fighters at 147, and they making the fights. So, you know, Aram said something about them trying to make a fight with Pacquiao before the COVID hit, and they're gonna get back into the talks of that to make that happen in the spring. But the thing is, Pacquiao is about 42, 43 years old. I mean, how much credit do you expect to get for getting in there and maybe stopping Pacquiao? He'll get a little credit because Pacquiao looked good his last time out. But Pacquiao is an older guy. So, I mean, it's looking like one of the best fighters who could have possibly been one of the best fighters of our time. He's gonna, you know, get into his older age and not have had the competition that he would need to cement his legacy. So I really think Bob Arum said he had another year on the contract with him. So hopefully, you know, Terence can make that move and go on head over to PBC so he can get some of these fights under his belt. Some of these legacy making fights. Some of these fights that are timeless that we'll be able to remember because you know they're making comparisons saying he's a throwback fighter to the Sugar Ray Leonard and Hitman Hearns and Hagler and Duran days, but he's not facing the competition that they're facing. Hitman Hearns and the Haglers and the Sugar Ray Leonards, those are at PBC. Errol Spence, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman. Those are those type of fighters. That's the big four at that weight class, at the 147 right now. That's the big four, and they're all fighting each other. Errol has that fight coming up against Danny, in December. So, yeah, Terence going to have to make a move. He got to put his name he got to throw his hat in the ring with those big-time fighters, with that big-time competition because, he's getting older. He's 33. A lot of young guys coming up. You got Boots Ennis coming up. Virgil Ortiz. He's a decent little fighter coming up. These young guys are coming up. And his reign, he may not be able to get the most out of his reign if he's getting up in the older age, and then he's facing these younger guys, and he's getting older, and they're getting into their prime, and then we may not be able to see the best of a Terence Crawford. So hopefully Terence could get out of that contract, and he won't re-sign. It was a bad idea to re-sign when he did it last time because they had no fighters then. So hopefully he can get over with PBC and get some of these big fights made. And then we could really see the pound for pound best. We can see who the best is for real. That's all I got. G-Roll Mo. Gone.
It's never enough. Who want it with us? We tough as elephant tusks. Came from the mud. You want it, gotta take it in blood. All about $1. Never claim to be thug. All we ask is trust.